gentlemen, this contest is going for. Yes, for the WWE Championship.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Welcome to Around the Turnbuckle. I'm the Big Alboski. Conspicuous by his absence is the professor, but he will be back. Make no mistake about that. I couldn't get rid of him if I tried. But joining us tonight on Around the Turnbuckle is Miguel Del Barrio. What's up, man?
What's going on, buddy? What's going on, Big Al? Around the Turnbuckle. How are you guys and everybody watching? It's good to be back on. Thank you so much for having me again, buddy. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely appreciate you, man. David Hill is here. Good evening. What's up, David?
David.
So let's get to it, man. So let me first explain to the people watching that I went and I experienced my first Frontier Pro Wrestling event last night in East Stroudsburg at the Big Wheel. And I tell you what, I had a great time. I really enjoyed myself. Everybody had a good time. Everybody seemed to have a good time. A local Pennsylvania celebrity was there in the form of 7-year-old Gavin. And if you haven't seen him at a wrestling show, guys, this guy is so much fun when you're around Gavin. You never know who he's going to come as. Sometimes he's Nature Boy Ric Flair. Sometimes he's the Iron Sheik. And last night he was Bret the Hitman Hart, just in case you were wondering. But Miguel, how do you think it went last night? Talk about last night, man.
It was cool, man. You know what it is when we talked a couple months, almost a year, I think, soon. When Frontier got started, we were kind of the location we have in Long Pond. It's kind of out there in the middle of nowhere, but we still try. We get a few people in. So now coming back to East Stroudsburg and the roller rink, in my 12-year career there, I wrestled there with so many other promotions that I felt the need to kind of try to bring it back. But COVID hit and everything like that, and there hasn't been any wrestling shows since then. So I think it's going to take a little time to try to get those people to come out again and make them realize that wrestling's back in the area. But show was a lot of fun. I had a great time. I think the fans that were there had a really good time, and the matches went all how they were supposed to, and it was a good show.
Yeah, in particular, the main event, there was a new FPW champion in the form of Luca Mancini defeating Skylar Kincaid in the main event.
Absolutely, man. Luca's like I said, man, he was one of my first students, along with my daughter, obviously, a couple years ago when I started training him. And even though I don't agree with his tactics all the time, it was a long time coming that he would wear that heavyweight strap, but he earned it. And I mean, couple interferences here and there, but now he's the champ. So now it's not going to be just about fighting for it, but it's defending for it every single time he's in there with it.
Yeah, speaking of interference, to me it was the associates had a pretty good night. You know, they seemed to be involved in almost everything going on last night, and it was interesting. Some of the match that you were involved in yourself was a 6-man tag.
Yeah, and
you had some mystery partners. Can you tell us about those two guys? Because you kind of brought them in, and one guy was his first match.
Yeah, so I've been having problems with Top Tier for almost a year now at FPW, and they're treacherous guys, and obviously they played an important part with Luca getting strapped up last night too and interfering and causing Skylar the championship. But when it comes to me, you know, they try to back me into a corner. It was a 3-on-1, but I had to bring in. I brought in a young guy from Sparta, New Jersey. He wrestles for Sparta Championship Wrestling, Brian Matthews. Really young talent, humble kid. I met him a couple of months ago, and when he was on the same card, you know, when I called him, he said he had the same issues with Top Tier, so it was only a given. And then, you know, sometimes in this business, you have friends, but not many people you can call on when you're having your own issues because everyone's focused on their own thing. So,
right.
Student of mine, Damian Gray, has been busting his butt, trying to get his reps in, trying to get his time in. Had his first show with me, and I looked to him for help. Obviously, he's a big kid, and He did great. He went out there, showed the crowd what he was about, and came home with the W with his coach and new friend Brian Matthews. So
I tell you, the first thing I noticed about him was his size. I mean, he's a
yeah,
big
big dude.
boy,
Yeah,
you
big,
know, and if he can, you know, you know, use that, but also at the same time do some of the things that guys his size can't do,
and
you
and
know,
and
he'll
he's an
he'll 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 become a hell of an attraction.
and he's a hell of an athlete. Let me tell you. I mean, I know I had tagged him in at one point. Ref didn't see it. He didn't. They were trying to make sure he didn't get in there. Obviously, his sheer size was trying to keep him out. But that kid in training, man, he's so athletic. He can move he moves like a cruiserweight. So again, the power on top of all that, and you saw the intensity that he comes in there
Yeah,
with.
I did.
Comes in slow and meticulous. He comes in strong and hard. So, only time's gonna tell if his experience gives him the experience he needs to continue to grow on that strength and get better and better with time.
Yeah, and one of the things I was excited to see was Uncle Masty in action. I had become, get to know him a little bit, and I was excited to see him wrestle. And then he took on one of PWI 500's, list, Jay Bougie. But again, Bougie got the best of him with the old Eddie Guerrero trick, which you're familiar with. I know you are. Where you make noise with the chair, you bang the chair, throw it in the guy's hands, fall down. The referee turns around, and it looks like Uncle Masty, lambasted him, but that wasn't the case.
And sometimes when that Eddie trick gets played, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Unfortunately, Mastodon, a great guy. I've gotten to get close to him this past year, and he's been with me and been putting on amazing matches, and along the way teaching me too. He's been around a little bit younger, or a little bit longer than I have been, and he teaches the young guys, which is what makes him such an asset to the roster. But
it's an asset to any roster that has him around, because he has he learned
positive for him. But
because go ahead.
He just got caught at the end of that Eddie trick, man. It was unfortunate.
Yeah, because he, trained with the Wild Samoans, and he, he has picked a lot of brains in the business, and like you said, he's been around the block a few times. And so if you add him to your card, you obviously get his mind in the back for all the guys too. I mean, that's pretty important too, especially guys that have maybe never come across him before, or young guys like your boy there.
Yeah, conversate a lot last night.
Yeah, and that helps.
Yeah, having the right people and the right mindset is what makes great locker rooms. Because we've talked about it before. Not every, and it's okay to say it. People want to be ignorant about it. Sometimes it can be, but it's okay to say it. Not all locker rooms are good. Not all locker rooms are great, right. And not all mindsets in the locker room are the best to follow, because sometimes it's filled with ego. But Mastodon guys that there is no ego. He knows where he is and he knows what he's accomplished, but he doesn't really have to flaunt all that because his work speaks for itself. But anybody that he's been able to influence, they only get better by being around someone like Masty. So I love the guy, man. Can never thank God enough for putting him in my path so I can learn from him too.
Yeah, and I got a chance to meet your lovely wife, Melody. She was very nice, very gracious to me at the door, and I only bring her up because she made an impression on the room. She was very, very gracious to all your fans coming in there and everything like that. If you have anything nice to say about her, now would be the time.
Now let me tell you, Melody is the sweetest woman ever. Obviously, I'm not just saying that because she's my fiance and everything like that. Not at all. And what it is this having Frontier was definitely a vision that I had for myself. Coming off of COVID as well. I knew it was going to be hard with the pandemic, but I've always said it. There's that saying, behind every great man, there's a woman rolling her eyes, and that's definitely where we are. Melody's 100% stuck with me through the whole thing. She's been with me through my ups and downs and my stressful days. And I think we all go through it with anything, not just pro wrestling. I think there's days where things just don't go right, and you're just sitting there like, why am I putting myself through this time and time again? she's always the one that says, you know what, Miguel, it's time to get up. It's time to, like, you gotta push the negative aside. We gotta keep moving forward and push, 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 push. And she doesn't only do that with me. She does that with a lot of the wrestlers. A lot of the wrestlers, any little things that may come up or any questions they may have, they come and ask Mel. And Mel's been around the wrestling business in the 3 years we've been together, and that's about it. But the one thing Mel is a great person. So she's always been a great year to listen to talk to. And even if she doesn't know much about the direct subject, she gives her insight on and her viewpoint about certain situations. And you've seen wrestlers pick up and go. Again, not all promotions are great and healthy, but I'm glad to say that because of the people I have in the back, myself, and Melody being someone else that accompanies me and is my partner in all this, and people can go to her openly. It's left a good vibe for everybody to enjoy where we wrestle and work.
So I want a quick public service announcement, and that is, in case you guys are normal regulars here and you watch me all the time and the professor when we interview wrestlers and promoters and whatnot, if you're wondering why I'm not asking similar questions, I did have Miguel on 4 months ago, and we answered all those questions about like his career, how he got started. So I urge you, if you have not seen it, go back on my YouTube channel and check out that interview 4 months ago with Miguel Del Barrio, because that's where we got into his training, his career, his affiliation with Eddie Guerrero. I mean, all that stuff is there, guys. Check it out. What we're talking about tonight is the here and now. Frontier Pro Wrestling. He's getting it off. He's getting it running. And so I really wanted to devote this time to that and see where it goes from here.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you. I really do appreciate that, man. Because, I've always told, my students and even guys that I'm in the locker room with, because you get all sorts of things that run through your head, right? Even Damian last night, super nervous as his first match. He knows he's a big guy, knows he's an athlete, knows he's been training hard, but you always get those jitters. And the thing is, have the right mindset and the right people giving you the right information, it should always go okay. That's the mindset that I think a lot of people should have. But a lot of times you'll find people in the locker room that kind of have a weird, now I don't want to say bad habits, because I don't want to say they're all bad, but a different mindset because they come from a different place. And you see those people. So you got to try to find a way to make it work. And Frontier this year has really been doing good. We just hit a year over the summer, and we haven't been stopping. There's been wrestlers that have come in and completely moved the needle for us and are still here, and we call family. And there's guys that we don't agree with all the time because of their tactics. Overall, again, in our business, we need those guys that are willing to pull the extra mile to become the best. And then there's the guys that are going to cheat to become the very best. But it makes for great wrestling. And I cannot ask for a better roster. They're all been dedicated. They all do what they want. They have to do, even if they're not on the show. There's a bunch of guys that promote my shows if they're not booked that month. And, I come from a time where back then that left guys a little salty. So it's good to see that the newer wrestlers coming in now, the mindset and the quo might be changing, which is great because I think I told you last time, and again, for anyone who didn't see it, my job in pro wrestling is not to just try to be the very best that I can be. But my job in pro wrestling is, because now that I've been doing it for so long, now that I have an outlet like Frontier Pro Wrestling, my main focus and job is to shape the future and make change, at least as much as I can, and leave a positive note on wrestling. So the next guys that do come up, they go, hey, man, do you remember Miguel? Yeah, he paved the road for us to have a working, positive area to wrestle in.
I have a question for you from Anthony Joseph. He says, what's the meaning of del? It's used a lot. So is there a meaning? I know that the word del in Spanish normally means from, right?
Yeah. So
Miguel Del Barrio, does that have a meaning?
Yeah. So Del Barrio is actually like, I guess you could say the hood or the block you come from. So, I took the name Miguel because that's my name. Obviously, my name is Mike, but I took the Spanish translation, and Del Barrio was actually the name that my pops, and I think we talked about that too, that was friends with Eddie, used back in the day. For a while in wrestling, I was going by something different, but this past year, Melody said, let's go a different route. Let's try it. We all know that you can start over if you need to and get up there. And I did. And I took Miguel Del Barrio, and the fans have been loving it ever since. And Del Barrio does it in this case, say from, so it would be Miguel from the hood. So, yeah.
So your fiance asked me to ask you the hard question. So I did come up with one. I did come up with one. And the rest of them are going to be pretty damn easy.
Okay.
So I did come up with one, a so-called put you on the spot thing.
Okay.
Because while Keith and I have been doing this for 2 years, we've met and we've come across a lot of different promotions in Pennsylvania and some in New Jersey as well and stuff like that. And some of them are run certain ways and some of them are run other ways and this and that and other things. So what I'm asking you is talk about how difficult it is to keep not only start up a promotion, but to keep it going, because a lot of guys are doing it just because, for lack of a better term, some of the guys are doing it because they weren't getting booked anywhere else. So they decide to start their own thing. Or some guys are doing it because they think they can, but some of them end up fading out. Like I've seen them come and go. Like I see them, when I mean come and go, I see them like advertised on Facebook or something like that. And then they disappear within like 6 months to a year. So talk about the difficulties in not only starting it up, but keeping it going.
I really like this question because I feel like I can give an answer that will benefit someone that may be thinking of trying their luck. So here's what I'll say. I've heard that many times. A lot of people start the promotions because they are not getting booked. When we spoke last, I read off a name of a couple places that were booking me, and thank you to guys like Sean Hardy, thank you to guys like Keith Zimmer, Gino Caruso when he had me going down there. All those guys that kind of gave me my start. I think if that's the reason someone starts it, it's already done in the wrong mindset.
Right.
Because here's my issue. And I mean, like, again, I told you last time too, so anybody watching, people are going to hate you whether you tell the truth, or they're going to hate you because you are. So it doesn't really matter to me where we are here. And it's not with anybody. But the thing is this, if you go into a promotion, that's a form of going into business for yourself. Because I can almost guarantee the people that do that are either the guys that have their own belt on them, have their own heavyweight championship on them, have their own main event spots, booking themselves to win. That's not what this is about. At least not for me. Okay. Like you said, there's many different areas and people have different mindsets. I wanted to create something that was changed about a year ago. And even during COVID time, when I was doing shows we were trying to keep it together. There was a couple of promotions coming in the area, some from the area. My hashtag for all my posts was Unite the Territories. I've never been someone that gets into the old 90s territory nonsense. I don't. Right. And there's no one around here that's causing any issues like that for us or tries to get involved like that. The only other closed wrestling company around here in this area is PPW, and that's Paul Bowe, an amazing guy. Finally got to meet him a couple months ago. And Paul Bowe's been doing this for a long time. So the success shows. So if Paul Bowe's up here, I want to just be just as good as Paul, if not somewhere close in a couple of years, Mm-hmm. So instead of going, damn, Paul Bowe is territory damage for me and he's doing better. I mean, of course he's doing better. He's supposed to be doing better. He's been around longer. He's got guys that he's bringing in and building up like I am. He's got guys that have been with him that helped him get to where he's at, who are made in the indie scene. And then Paul Bowe has made a very decent following for himself, which is amazing. And that's all I could ever ask for anybody around. So with that comes financials, right? So with that, you book names. A lot of the times when these guys start, just because they're not getting booked or they think they can, or they're oh, I can do this to make a quick buck. It really isn't all that cut out as it is. Like, let me tell you, my thing is, my payoff would be, I know Sage Del Barrio, my daughter, she's still training and doing her thing. Like, this was created to make opportunity for younger wrestlers, guys like Damian Gray and Sage and Brian Matthews and top tier too. They're all young in their first year and they're wrestling on my show, and I'm treating them as hard as they've worked. they want to be main event stars, and you need to work for that. You know, I had to. I didn't, and I'm not saying by any means I'm a main event star at all anywhere. I'm never going to say that. I never will. That's not who I am. But when I'm work hard, people notice that, and you need the right people to notice that, not the wrong people. You don't need to be bagging on each other to get somewhere or cut a promo on someone out of as a shoot to try to get above. Just work hard, promote, sell tickets, put your guys there, thank your promoters, and have great matches. You know, so again, I don't like people that start. Not that I don't like them. I don't agree with the mindset of people that, you know, aren't booked anywhere and then they start throwing promotion, because if you're a promoter, your job is, if you're an active wrestler and a promoter, your job is to build stars. Because if you build those stars, Damian Gray or top tier, make it to AEW, they're going to drop one name that looked after him. All you need. That's it. That's all you need, because guess what? Maybe a kid in the same town goes, oh, Damian Gray's from Strasburg, Pennsylvania, and his coach was Miguel Del Barrio, and after he stopped training with Miguel, he was on FPW. Maybe I can do it too. That's called inspiration, and to me, that's the best payoff you can have.
That was an amazing answer. I appreciate you for that answer, because within that answer, not only did you tell them what to do, what not to do, but what can happen, and all in one answer. So I'm saying this directly to your fiance. I hope that question was tough enough for you, because then the rest of them are probably pretty easy.
All right, cool.
that was the hard hitting one I came up with. That was because I was thinking what hard hitting questions on the ride home last night. I'm thinking that I'm like, she wants me to ask him hard hitting questions, but like, what can I ask hard hitting? I think that was the hardest hitting question I've ever asked a promoter ever.
Tell you, but even maybe not even hard hitting. Here's why I love Around the Turnbuckle, and everybody that watches and everybody that's watching now. Here's why I reached out and I said, hey man, whenever you want to go again, let's go again. And you said, let's do it. So I said, let's go. Let me put it point blank. Okay. Here's the thing that people with ego will try to do. They try to get booked on talk shows that just kind of let them talk more about themselves, and they focus on themselves and not the business. Around the Turnbuckle, even if it wasn't a hard question, guess what? It was a question that allowed me to teach anybody that is watching. And by what I mean by that is, if you guys didn't know before that in this business, you need to respect yourself, you need to respect others, and need to not let your ego get in the way. Now you do. So thank you, Big Al, for a question like that. Even if it wasn't hard, I'd rather have a question that makes change. That's my word, man. It's change. If we're not changing things for the better, we're not doing our jobs. So thank you for that question. I really enjoyed it, actually.
I appreciate you for saying that. But I mean, and that's what I've been trying to convey to people. I'm not looking to get rich. I'm not looking to get famous. I am looking to what I am all about, and Keith is right there with me. When I say I mean we.
Yeah.
What we're all about and Around the Turnbuckle is giving back to the business that has entertained us for, in his case, 30 years, in my case, 40. All right. I was a little kid going to Allentown Agricultural Hall and going to Hamburg Fieldhouse when WWF would come into town, and they would tape Superstars of Wrestling and Wrestling Challenge, and Vince McMahon would be there, and Jesse the Body would be there, and sometimes Gorilla Monsoon would be there, and Bobby the Brain Heenan, etc. And then I got to see guys wrestle like Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Andre the Giant, Big John Studd, King Kong Bundy, guys like that. And I fell in love with this business back then when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2 years ago when the pandemic hit, we had been already talking about doing a podcast about wrestling where it was just me and Keith and maybe two other guys sitting around talking about what goes on in wrestling as far as like television goes, as far as WWE or AEW or whatever. And then I looked around and I realized that's what everybody's doing, you know, and some are doing it to an extreme. Like some are doing it, full marked out stuff where they try to break down why is this storyline is this way? Why are they doing this? Or, like, for example, there's something going on right now in WWE with the White Rabbit thing that everybody thinks is Bray Wyatt,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Yeah.
They'll sit there and talk. Some of these podcasts I've seen will sit there and talk about that for an hour. I figured, why not learn more? Because I was kind of naive to it. Why not learn more about my local independent scene? Why not go down and venture down and maybe go to some of these shows? I live in the foothills of the Poconos. I live in Palmerton, so I'm within a stone's throw of you guys. I'm within a stone's throw of Quakertown, Allentown, etc. Why can't I just start checking out these shows? So I went to my first show in 2020, and I've gone to as many as I can afford to go to since.
Man, I was
because
so
I have more fun at these indie shows than any WWE show I've ever been to, with the exception of WrestleMania. That's a whole nother thing. I've been to
That's
3
different beast.
WrestleMania.
Yep.
But other than that, it's more intimate. The fans get involved. There's more interaction. There's, the crowds are more, part of the show. And, you just get enthralled in it all. And I love when I see new young talent getting started, and then 2 years later, where they've, where they were 2 years ago, where they are now, you can see the progression.
Yep.
Right? That's exciting to me. And then we do this podcast, and we start interviewing wrestlers, promoters, referees, ring announcers, etc.
Right.
And every once in a while, we throw in a big name that wrestling fans know, just to try to build the audience, because all I want to do is make this platform bigger, so that when a new person comes in who's only been doing it for 6 months to a year, and they're trying to get their name out there, the stage is bigger.
Right.
That's it. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to get rich, famous, any of that stuff. I'm trying to give back to the business. And some guys that I've come in contact with, and they know who they are, shy away from me for whatever reason. And I have no idea why, because I'm only trying to help you.
You mean wrestler wise?
Yes.
Listen, at the end of the day, and again, I hope I become a fan favorite on the show for you, because I really don't care. I don't, and it's not in a rude way. You know what it is I've done so much good, with Sean Hardy too, and I got to give him credit, because it's not that I was ever like self-centered or selfish, but when he was coming down to Strasbourg all the time, right? Because he comes from Delaware. He used to do 1CW shows out here more frequently, a little bit more frequent. He would come around the holidays. So me being the local guy, he paired up with me, because kind of the same thing. Like, why wouldn't you try to give back? And it's like you say that type of stuff, and instead of wrestlers jumping at the opportunity, one, because it's a good thing, and two, you're going to get your name out there. So why wouldn't you do it? Sean Hardy did a raffle ticket, or would do raffle draws at a show. Then he would put that money to buy a family in need in the community. He would look for them and get them Christmas presents. And on top of that, whatever local wrestler that this wrestling family, because they usually were fans of the show, when we gave them the Christmas present, we gave them a choice to pick of who they'd want on the roster. And for the longest time, he picked me just to pick me. But then as my name kept coming up, I noticed, I have a following because of Sean, thankfully enough. But now I'm doing these little giveaways for kids that need it, and visiting kids at the hospital, and going to the schools to do the anti-bullying at my local high school where I came from. Like, all that stuff is giving back, and it's getting your name out. But you can tie that all up in a bow. The same thing around the turnbuckle. Anybody that doesn't want to get on this podcast is literally out of their mind. Because again, my first interview was you allowing me to be a bigger star than I could ever be without the podcast, because we were able to talk about me. Now we're talking about the company that I'm bringing up. And more importantly to me, though, we're talking about things that I want for the business, which are the very same things you want. So any guy that shies away from you and doesn't want to do an interview like this is out of their mind, man. And this is what I'm talking about. The mindset is so different. Like I heard the other day, one of my other buddies that did a podcast with local wrestlers too. The guy, he asked him, "Hey, you want to come and do, a local podcast for me?" And the guy's answer, I'm not going to mention names, but the guy's answer was, "Hey man, how much are you going to pay me?" Listen, man. You don't get paid to wrestle at certain promotions, but you want the guy that's asking you to give you a spot on the on a podcast to pay you? Come on, man.
I'll stop you right there, and I have been asked to pay some guys also, and I respectfully declined. Or I might have gone as far as said, well, maybe, just get in contact with me on Facebook and we'll talk about it, and they never do.
Nonsense, man. Nonsense. Everybody's ego. I'm telling you, it's people's egos. And like I said, I have a roster of guys, and I love them all. Some of them have a little bit of an ego, but not enough where it's going to be like, hey, Miguel, I don't care about what you think. I want to go for me. Those type of people don't work for me. I can be that type of vibe and mentality I do not have in my locker room. Again, gonna hate me if you do, hate me if you don't. There's been guys in my locker room that had that ego, and I try to make it work. It doesn't work. Well, it's okay. You don't have to be here. It's fine. We'll find somebody that is hungry and is willing to, be what I need them to be. But on top of that, if I ask and go, hey man, this is kind of how I need this to go because I have plans for this later on. You're involved in part of the plan, but I just needed to go a little bit further than what we were thinking. And they're willing to give that. That's who I want.
And
I've been getting my ass kicked all year in FPW, man. Let me tell you.
And although I had no goals set, but like I said, to just give back. I had no aspirations of getting involved with the business or anything like that. But through the connections that I've made, I've been able to live the dream of ring announcing. I actually ring announced the whole show in July at the Hamburg Fieldhouse for Outbreak Wrestling.
Oh, Outbreak.
And I also do commentary for the weekly show called 3WA Carnage for 3WA, for Triple WA in Quakertown.
Nice.
So those things just happened. I didn't ask for them. I was approached with opportunities, and I took them because I love it. I love any part of it. I had no aspirations of being part of the business at all, but I enjoyed every minute, and I have enjoyed every minute that I've done. And if the only thing I ever do for the rest of my life is around the turnbuckle, I'm going to do it because I love doing it. I mean, it is the favorite part of my week, sitting down, and I don't care who I'm talking to. No offense to you, but I don't care who I'm talking to because we're going to, for an hour, sit down and talk about the business. And whoever I'm talking to, I hope not only has a great time, but by the end of the conversation wants to come back again, because that is what happened with you 4 months ago. Like you were ready to schedule yourself again for another. Yeah. Let's do it again. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate the promoters, all guys that I've met, promoters that I've met speaking out for me like they have, the Rob Noxises of the world, the Uncle Masties of the world, Mark Mest, Dino Sana, those guys have all said, hey, they've told their wrestlers, and anytime they come on here, they say the same thing you just did, which say, hey, get yourself on here and get noticed by the right person. It'll help you get promoted. It'll help you get booked elsewhere. I mean, you know what I mean? Most promotions only run relatively ordinarily once a month.
Yeah.
So if you want to wrestle every week, or, Ric Flair style, wrestle Friday, Saturday, twice on Sundays, whatever, you got to get yourself out there.
You do. And that only happens if you work for it. Like, my pops used to tell me, and I was just about to tell you, I do this because I love it. I think I was just telling a friend of mine today about something that's going on with them, and you hit it right on the dot. My dad always used to tell me that closed mouths don't get fed. So if you're not going out there and promoting yourself, if you're not going out there and making yourself the biggest star in a positive way in your community. It's never going to happen for you. Now, on the other hand, like I've had, and it's nothing bad on my mom. So my mom happens to see that. I love you, Mom. It's nothing. It is what it is. My mom's never been a supporter of this. You know, my dad, he passed away when I was 11, and a lot of the brain damage that he had was because of wrestling. So naturally, no mom wants to see that happen to their kid. But I had a discussion with my mom not too long ago, and she said, she came to one of the shows, and it wasn't too full of a house, which was okay. But she said, why do you keep doing this? You've been doing this for so long. You should get a job that is going to, and I do have a normal job, but this is what I love, so I'm going to do it. But you should get a career that's going to give you and the girls and Melody and Milo, my son Milo, a more financial standing. But my thing is this, and this is exactly the answer I gave her. At the end of the day, I love what I do. My dad used to say, if you find a job that you really love, you never work a day in your life.
Yep.
I train these guys every month, every week, twice a week, 3 times a week for hours on end. And that is my job in wrestling. One of my jobs. But to me, I'm having fun out there training talent of tomorrow. Those 4 or 5 hours go like this.
Right.
Wrestling. Sometimes I'm on a card that's 7 to 8 matches. Usually relatively 2 hours show. Sometimes on a card that's got 12 matches. We're there for like 3 hours and then call times an hour before the show to make sure everything's okay. Those 4 hours, because I'm back there, talking business with the guys and getting ready for my match, getting ready for the show, going out there and doing it and then coming back. The time goes like that. It's so quick. And you when you start realizing how quick that time lapse is, you realize that if this is what you love, that's how quick time's going to go. Because when we were in school and math came around and you didn't want to be in math period because you didn't understand it, it was the longest period of your day.
Yeah.
So I told my mom, I would be insane to be ignorant and stop doing what I do. Because at the end of the day, this is just what God chose for me. This is what I was meant to do. And if I can do it, and it's got a financial value, and it's got me, because like you said, I don't ask for things. I do anti-bullying campaigns as the wrestler that made it. The kids at the time, the younger kids, they're like, oh, this wrestling star, whatever. I'm just down the street, buddy. But they don't know that. To them, it's something bigger. I never asked to do that. But my high school, when they do the anti-bullying campaign and stuff, and they bring in guests, I 100% do that because it was something I didn't ask for, but it's something that my kids go to the same district as I did growing up or coming up as a kid. Why wouldn't I want to give back and help a kid speak out and or know that it's not okay to do this? Now it's coming from somebody that they may listen to. Oh, I love wrestling. This guy's a wrestler. Oh, he's telling me bullying's bad. Maybe I should stop being a jerk. Or maybe I know someone that's going through something and maybe I should help them out. All these things wrapped on a bow. I tell my mom, this is why I do wrestling, because it's not only giving me what I love to do, it pays for stuff for the kids, it pays for stuff at my house, and it lets me pay for itself to keep doing what I love to do. I'd be insane to not do that. It's wasting a paycheck. I was born to do it.
That's what I love about professional wrestling.
Yeah.
It's this world we live in where, yes, at the end of the day, where, you're putting on a show and you're trying to sell tickets and you're trying to promote future stars and all that cool stuff. But you also get involved with your community. You also get involved with, many different organizations get involved with different things. I've seen wrestling events for charity. I've seen, different things like that. It's all inspirational. And what wrestling has done, if anything has done over the years for me, has inspired me to do everything that I do, even the way I parent, even the way I, conduct myself as a person. I never ever ask for anything in return. I always try to give, and things have come my way because I've always been that way. It was the way I was raised. And so, when I mentioned earlier about the ring announcing thing, you mentioned the the call time, and you mentioned that you guys get together an hour or so before the show, make sure everybody's there, make sure they know what they're doing, all that cool stuff. But most promoters do a quick speech right before the show, like literally like minutes before the show. They usually a speech, much like much akin to like a quarterback in the NFL telling his rallying troops right before they go out into the stadium, kind of thing.
Right.
Ryan Vox, I'm going to
Love
give
Ryan.
a huge shout out to him.
Love Ryan.
Because when I did he did not have to do this. When I did my first ring announcing gig, he brought me into that meeting. And made sure that I knew that I was part of that group, part of the show. And it made me feel like I wasn't, instead of making me feel like I was just a fan fulfilling a longtime dream of mine of being like, of being the next Howard Finkel. He brought me in with the wrestlers, and I was able to experience what they experienced right before showtime.
Right.
He gave an amazing speech, and I'm not blowing smoke. I have no reason to blow smoke up Ryan's butt, but he gave an amazing speech. And I often wonder the differences between, because I mean, I've only been in so many locker rooms. So the differences between the speeches that some of you guys give, you know?
I gave a speech yesterday. And I was trying something a little different. And this is now pulling the curtain back just a little bit. You know, everybody in the locker room, again, there's always going to be egos. The only thing you always have to keep in mind as a wrestler when you're in the locker room, and there's a little bit of advice I'm giving just because of what you said. What the promoter wants, a good promoter, like guys like Sean Hardy and of that nature that are great people and everything like that. If they ask you to do something, you may not always agree with it. But if they're a good promoter, they're going to have your best interest in the long run.
Right.
It's isn't about wins and losses. It's not how many belts you hold. It's nothing about that. It's directly about how many fans you can make happy in that 2-hour span, in that 10-minute span or 15-minute span you have within that 2 hours.
Yep.
Send them happy and let them appreciate that or let them be grateful that they paid 15, 20, however it may be, to watch you wrestle for 15 minutes.
Yep.
The reason I say that is because there's a lot of guys that are not humble. There's a lot of guys that do. And someone like me that now I hold the position of leading my guys to success. I always want to inspire, man. I don't want guys to be upset. I know some people do. Some people don't like the spots they're in. And it's understandable. You know, everybody has their own vision of where they want to go.
Sure.
I'm not saying I won't get you there, but I'm also not a mind reader. So if you don't tell me where we're at, and like I said, I've always told my guys, you know, at the very beginning, I'm a very drama-free locker room. The drama that we've had in the locker room, we've got rid of it really quick, you know, because I'm not for it and I don't need any egos. But I've always told everybody, if you have an idea, you might as well come and tell me. If it's a good idea, we'll run with it. Tell me why you like it. If you don't think it's a good idea, then okay, tell me why you don't, and we'll figure something out. We'll meet halfway, you know. And that's directly something. And I kid you not, I watch this DVD at least 2 times a year, if not 3, if I'm feeling it. But Paul Heyman's My Name is Paul Heyman, his DVD, such a mastermind, and I think that DVD played a big part in me being able to promote certain ways because on TV, we hate him at times. But behind the scenes, Paul Heyman's given so many opportunities that people don't even
Oh, my God, yeah.
And you know what? And they say it, and he'll say it. You know, the people that know him will say it. He lied. He cheated people out. And he made sure he stole some spots along the way. But guess what? He never once asked for anything in return. He never once asked for credit. A lot of these guys that come out years later and go, you know, thanks to Paul Heyman, I'm here. But when they were doing their run, they never really mentioned Paul because it wasn't part of the storyline.
Right.
So they did it. But Paul Heyman did all that without a thank you. And that's kind of where I'm at is, again, if Jay Bougie had a good night yesterday. He just came off of AEW Dark. If Jay Bougie gets on AEW on the roster, or goes back to Dark,
right,
and speaks to William Regal and William goes, hey, man, we caught your show and we saw you on YouTube at FBW. And he says, hey, yeah, it's a good show down there. You know, Miguel's down there. It doesn't even have to be William Regal. I've already done enough to play some sort of part in a wrestler's mind to go, hey, that guy down there at Frontier, he's a good dude.
We've had people on this show in 2 years' time. We're about to have our 200th episode.
Let's do it. That's awesome. So good for you guys, man.
So we have had a few guys come through that ended up, or either they are there or they're on their way there. And we get so excited because these are people that we've met and we spent some time with, talking to them about their career, about their life, and for an hour. And we stay in touch with each and every one of them that have been on this show. And I'm gonna drop you some names that have been doing a lot of stuff for AEW and or WWE who have been on Around the Turnbuckle. Irvin Legend. Irvin Legend was on SmackDown in a tag team match when Hit Row came back, and him and his partner were and when I saw him on SmackDown, I was like, holy crap, that's Irvin Legend. I got so excited for him that he was on it. You know what I'm saying? And then and I text him and he's like, yeah, man, I couldn't say anything until it aired.
Right.
And until I was actually there doing it, you know what I'm saying? So Chico Adams is doing things for WWE, for NXT, AEW. He has been on Dark, but he's doing more things for WWE. He came up through the Samoans. He was WXW champion. I think he still is. I'm not sure, but he was on Around the Turnbuckle. And then I see him as getting Stone Cold Stunnered on Monday Night Raw by Bro Keller. Another one, and the best one was Joshua Dawkins, who ended up being Malik Blade on 205 Live, but now he's in NXT. He was on our show too, because a friend of mine knew his father, who used to play for the Sixers, and he said, hey, my son's a wrestler. And I said, well, who's your son? And he said, well, Joshua Dawkins. I said, oh, I'll have him on. I had him on, and he was talking about all these dreams about getting signed with WWE. 4 months later, he got signed to WWE Developmental. I was like, dude, that's the thrill of my life. If somebody comes through here and they end up getting signed to do this for a living, if that's your dream, because I've had people on here that's not their dream. They're just happy doing what they're doing. They just do this because they love it.
I'll be honest with you, man. Again, I talked about Paul's DVD. Now I'm going to shift over to Shawn Michaels. If WWE called me, and I have a friend of mine, very close friend of mine, so I'll mention him by name on this podcast and have him watch it, Andre Scott. We argue all the time. He tells me you're a liar. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't give it up. There's nothing in my mind right now, and I'm being honest. I don't know that I would go with WWE if they called. I think I told you in my interview 4 months ago. I'm about to be 30 in December.
Right.
I'm not a point in my life where, and maybe I'm just weird. I have 3 girls, that I love very much. One's in Florida doing her thing and living her life. Kira Davies out there doing her thing. She was my ring announcer forever and picked beef with wrestlers and had storylines here. I have Sage coming up in pro wrestling. My youngest daughter, Mia, is doing good and doing great in school and wants to take up MMA. And I got my little guy, Milo, who's 4 years old, who's already calling himself T. Gray Jr., So, I don't know. Shawn Michaels once said that when he was done and everything was said and done, he came home and his son didn't even recognize him. Right. I don't know if I could live through that feeling. So I don't know that I would go with WWE. But if there's an AEW Dark or something along the lines of like that I could be a part of, maybe. But like I said, I just, not just my school, but my community, we all have ambitions and we all have dreams and goals. And I think mine changed a while back about going to WWE and going to AEW as my main goal. I think it changed because I'm so focused on like I told, breaking a little bit here. I told a couple guys yesterday from the show, came over to the house afterwards, and I told them straight out and they appreciated it. They said, hey man, we love you. They hugged me. They're like my kids, these younger wrestlers. Yep. They look up to me and, they go, hey, man, what's next for us? And I'll tell them what's next. Oh, we love it. All right, let's do it. And they go out there and they put on a show. I've seen growth in the last year from some of these younger guys. They're my kids. So for me to leave them, that would be me making a step forward for myself.
Right.
And then never know, like if I do make it, right, I would like to believe that I would never make it. And
Right.
hope, like if I ever hit John Cena status, I would love to believe that my character now would stay the same, and I wouldn't forget where I came from. I'd come back
Right.
I'd come back to Stroudsburg, because I would never forget the Berg, and I'd give back to whatever needs to be given back to, along with taking care of my family, my mother, my in-laws, my mom, my dad, my brother, whatever they need. That's the dream, right? It's the golden dream. Sometimes people lose sight of that, but I would never, like. And then a part of me thinks of it, and I'm like, well, if I leave, my students have to find a new school. Remember that maybe they end up in a great locker room. Maybe they don't.
Right.
And maybe what I see, somebody else may not see. So it's my job to stick around and see it through.
See, to me, at this point, you're a family man now.
Yes.
And so it makes that dream that you may have had before you were a family man turn into something that, it turned into something like, well, if it happened, it happened. If it now it's not a dream. Now, if it ever happened, great. You know what I mean? But if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world, because I have my family, and I have FPW, and I have my kids, and I have my wrestlers, and everybody I take care of, and my community, and all that stuff. You have a lot to be thankful for. To me, WWE, or even AEW. If you were on AEW Dark just once, I know you would do it for the experience.
Absolutely.
But we're not talking signing you to a 3-year deal. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
We're talking AEW Dark. I mean,
and even with that,
there's still that. There's still that opportunity. You could still,
And even with that, like I said, again, no punches held ever. There's guys out there, and they know who they are, and I know some of them watch your podcast because they post it, and it's okay. They don't like me. It's okay. They sit there and they fill their mouths up with, oh, he's selfish. Oh, he runs his own promotion. Oh, he's looking after his guys. No. That's not what's happening. They're all my guys. I don't really have friends. I have family. Not to sound Dominic Toretto from Fast and Furious cliche.
No.
The people that are with me are my family. So even with that, you're right. If I make it to AEW Dark, let's say it happens, and I get my ass kicked, but I go back there and William Regal goes, hey, man, you had a good match. Thank you. We'll call you if we need anything. Hey, do you have any talent down there that you could use that we could bring up to Dark? That's what I want to do. Because you know what? The minute my daughter is ready to go, I'm going to throw the name.
Of course. You'll have those connections.
Mancini out there. I'm going to throw the name Skylar Kincaid, who is the brother of Ace Austin.
Right.
Skylar Kincaid deserves his shot.
Sure.
Jay Bougie's with us, and you got Top Tier, who are young guys coming up who have so much potential. Like, that's why I would do it. Because you know what? You're right. If it happens, it happens. But let me tell you what's happened even without it happening. I've been doing this for 12 years. Since I've been 16, I was training. When I was 18, I was ready to go.
Yep.
I've had the honor and privilege of being in the same building and picking the mind of guys like Justin Credible, Boogeyman, Metal Maniac, Jeff Miller.
Yep.
I've been in the same building with Abyss. I've been in the ring, the same building as like guys like Teddy Hart. And the list goes on and on. And Nunzio, I've been in the like, it goes on and on. I always forget the name they're using with him in WWE, and I don't mean for him to get upset if he ever sees it, but Sefa Fatu, the Samoan that just came, the Samoan that just came up to the bloodline. What do they call him? I am so sorry.
Solo. They're just calling him Solo.
Solo. I picked his mind right before he got signed, and again, now he's in WWE, and I want to say that he said something good about my match, but I really can't remember that he did. But I know he said, hey, good job out there because I got the crowd up. But little things like that. And now this guy's in WWE, and I always get compliments from his cousin Lance on Hawaii that's on MLW, and we're close too. Like, that's all I need.
I met Lance.
That's all I need is things like that, my validation comes from these guys that I've been around. I've been able to meet Enzo thanks to Sean Hardy. I've met the Briscoe brothers thanks to Sean Hardy. and nothing really negative can be said about me except by the people that don't really know me who think they know me.
Well, I can tell you this. I just met you a few months ago,
Yeah.
and I feel I know you because you have a lot of passion. You have a
Very.
lot of heart. You're a family person. You put everybody else first before you.
Right.
You put your kids, your fiance, your wrestlers, like everybody before you. So I want to commend you on that because it's a rare thing nowadays, and it obviously comes from your family, it comes from your upbringing, it comes from the way you were raised, because you're almost 30 years old.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of 20 somethings that don't have that attitude. And so congratulations
Thank you.
on everything that you've done, because you deserve whatever success that you want out of wrestling, and whatever success you want for FPW, and whatever success that you want for your boys. You deserve all of that because you care more about all of that and all of them than yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, and again, you're right. There's guys that, and like I said, it's not that I mean to talk bad about anybody at all. Like, there's guys that have been around a little bit longer than me that came up with me, and it started the same way. Kind of, they mentored me, and a lot of those guys, for some odd reason, when I started doing my own thing and I started coming up on the radar more in other promoters' eyes, it was like, oh, well, screw that kid.
Right.
Like, things like that. It sucks. It sucks. The feeling sucks, but it's never broken me. If anything,
It's the
and
business, brother. You
yeah,
can't let that.
cool. And it's
Yeah,
cool.
it's the business.
But my fiance, I've always told her, and she says that's one of the reasons I love you. Listen, I've made a career not because I'm a great wrestler, not because I'm a great promoter. I'd like to think I'm a really good dad, but I've made a career of proving people wrong. And as long as there's people that doubt me, I will shoot for the stars and try every day to prove them wrong. Not just for myself, but the guys that are under me. My job I'm never going to say vet because I just don't want that title, but for guys that have been around less time than me, my job is to lead the way with a light and a torch and tell them, hey, this is the way you can go and this is the way it'll work. Or you can go this way and find out the hard way yourself. Because I did. I'm not going to take credit, all the credit. I was at one point, my ego was up there until, I got smacked in the face by Jeff Miller a couple times and was told, hey, kid, love you. You're great. You're talented. But you got to do a little bit of a little less of this and a little more of this.
Right.
And you get up and you got to go. So, I've been humbled as well. And that's okay too. I don't want anybody to think that it's a perfect Cinderella story with me, because it isn't. There was a lot of hardships and a lot of people that had to humble me too. But once you learn that and you find out your purpose as a person and what your role is in this whole promotion and wrestling business, it gets a lot easier.
So what's next for FPW?
For FPW, me and the kids and Melody, we've been going a year strong. Winter last year stopped us. It's not going to stop us this year, but we're definitely going to wait November out. We'll be back in December for sure. We have to come back stronger than ever. Luca Mancini's now the champion.
Yep.
The age of Kincaid has ended. I know it's not done forever. I'm sure Scott's going to be on the hunt again. But for now, we live in the limelight of Luca Mancini. And on top of that, he's now pairing himself with the group of dogs that is top tier. So a lot of change is coming. I think a lot of dark days are also coming with that guy as champ. And I love him to death. But, the good guys will always try to find a way to prevail. And if we can't, we'll die trying. So fans, all you can do is stick around. We'll have our December date for sure. I cannot for the life of me right now. I know you're posting it and you're going to post it, but Uncle Masty's having his show coming up. So
he does.
Masty Show 3. If you guys missed the first two, it was a phenomenal show. Great people, great talent, great promoter, great guy. So if you guys look it up, go down to that show and catch it. Okay. Please.
That show is in Dixon City.
Yep.
And that show is on a Sunday afternoon at 1:00. Doors open at 1:00 show. Just look up Smash Masters Wrestling on Facebook. You'll find it, and he already has the poster up and all that kind of stuff. Yep. If you want information on Frontier Pro Wrestling, go to the Frontier Pro Wrestling Facebook page for more information. And then when Miguel releases the date for the December event, it'll be there, and we hope to see everybody there.
Absolutely.
Also, you want to promote your school?
Yeah. So here's the thing. We're doing our thing, and COVID kind of set us back a little bit with the buildings and the rents going up high, and now nobody wants to rent out. We're doing our thing, and we're making it work here at the house. We have our training ring here. We're going to be trying to get a little building soon, but yeah, NEWA. We're Northeast Elite Wrestling Academy. If you look up Frontier Pro Wrestling and message me on there, because I will get it, and say, hey, I saw you on Around the Turnbuckle, or I saw the FBW show, or I saw you guys at ColossalCon, which was amazing. For anybody that watches this, because a couple people asked me if I had ever been on this, and yes, I have. So hopefully you catch this episode. I saw you guys at the anime convention, and we had 150 fans strong. It was an amazing show. But if you guys want to look us up on Frontier Pro Wrestling and you guys want to try it out, message me on there. While we do free sessions to see if this is what you want to do, and it's okay if you don't. And if you want to still be involved, there's always other positions in wrestling that doesn't involve you being a wrestler. Live out your dreams, okay? So please hit us up on that. Again, that's Frontier Pro Wrestling on Facebook, and our new dates will be on. But thank you so much, Big Al, because you are the man, buddy.
I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, if you're out there wondering, if you're out there wondering if you want to be part of the wrestling business, and maybe you're not the most athletic guy, maybe you could be a referee, maybe you could be a ring announcer, maybe you could be a commentator. You don't know unless you try. So live out your dreams, man. That's what I've done, and I'm going to continue to do, and I'm going to continue to try to pursue, because I loved doing it. I loved every minute of that experience. And anytime I sit next to my broadcast colleague, the professor, and we're actually calling local professional wrestling, that's the thrill of a lifetime, man. And if you want to check that out, look up Triple WA on Facebook as well. They have the videos there. We just did episode, I believe it was 25 of Carnage. We just got that rolling a few months ago. So there's about one every week. They drop it every week, usually Friday or Saturday they drop it. And so check us out on that. Triple WA, 3WA Carnage is the show. And the professor is the Jim Ross of the team, and I am the Jerry the King Lawler type, the heel lover, the heel sympathizer, always with a snide comment, and then he usually keeps me grounded. But that's how it goes. But man, I appreciate you to the max. You know that.
Thank you so much, man. I'm so glad you came out to the show. I'm glad you had fun, brother. It means
I had a blast, and I hope everybody that sees this checks them out on Facebook and checks out their next event. Also checks Uncle Masty up there and Smash Masters up in Dixon City, up in the Scranton area. Frontiers in the East Stroudsburg area right now. And you'll have a great time. It's a good time. Bring the family. Enjoy yourself. Check out local wrestling. Support local wrestling, guys. If we're about anything on Around the Turnbuckle, let's support local wrestling. Look it up. It's in your backyard. I mean, it's in your backyard. If you live in the Allentown area, you have WXW. If you live down by Quakertown, it's 3WA. If you live out by Harrisburg, it's CCW. And if you live in East Stroudsburg, it's FPW. Smash Masters is up by Scranton. They're around.
We're around.
Within an hour of your house. You have professional wrestling at your fingertips.
Absolutely.
For a great price.
But thank you so much, buddy, for having me on again. I love it every time I'm on here. So I'll be looking for round 3 whenever you call me.
You are welcome back here anytime, my friend.
Buddy.
Quick program note. Next Sunday on this channel, Smooth Tom Mitchell, making waves in professional wrestling lately. As of late, he is a newcomer in the professional wrestling scene, in the Pennsylvania scene. He's somebody you might want to keep your eye on there, Miguel.
Yeah.
Smooth Tom Mitchell is a blue chip athlete, incredible athlete, and I've seen a few of his matches live. He's something else. I mean, he really reminds me of a young John Cena. I'm not kidding.
Wow. Okay. Cool. I'm definitely gonna have to tune in next week and see.
He is a hell of an athlete, former all-star athlete in high school, military kid, wonderful physique, and the kid can move. And he's about 6'1" or 2. I mean, excellent. So I cannot wait to talk to Smooth Tom Mitchell. I do not know if the professor will be back next week or not, so tune in to find out. But other than that, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere when I go off the air, right, brother?
All right, brother.
For Miguel Del Barrio, I'm the Big Al Boski. This was Around the Turnbuckle. We'll see you guys next Sunday.
See you guys. Thank you so much.
You think you know me?
Oh, yeah! If you smile!